Hi, my name is Patrick Collins, and I'm a member of St. Mary's Parish and have been for the last 5 years, since my wife and I moved down here from New York to be near our whole family. So, Father Mike asked me if I could do a couple of these videos regarding our new Pope. He sent me an email, which was pretty funny, so I'd like to quickly read it to you. So this is from Father Mike. He says, I have an idea regarding the new Pope. Many folks have asked me the following questions in recent days. What is an Augustinian? Who was Saint Augustine? What is an Augustinian community? How is their formation different from diocesan priests? And based on the new Pope's Augustinian background, how might that shape his ministry? So, again, Father Mike, I was thinking, I know a guy who went to Villanova, who was an Augustinian, and who might be willing to do a few brief videos on these kinds of questions. As I said, again, Father Mike, I know a guy, but I'm not sure if that guy has the time or interest in such a video project here at St. Mary's. Maybe that guy could pray about this idea. Just a thought. So, first off, thank you, Father Mike, for the suggestion, because it's pure joy for me to talk about all of this. I will try as best as I can to get some semblance of an answer to all of those questions. And the hope is to keep these videos to around 7 minutes long. I know we all have busy lives. So, okay, here we go. I guess I should start by saying I was in the Augustinian order for 6 years. I left long before ordination, coming to the realization that I was being called to something else, to being married and having a family. I would like to say that I joined the Augustinians after I spent years discerning and looking at all the different ways that I might be able to serve the Lord. In what capacity, in what way? Should I be a diocesan priest or a religious order priest? I'd like to say that I thought and prayed for all those years. But in reality, I joined the Augustinians for one reason and one reason only. I grew up in the Bronx, right around the corner from St. Nicholas of Tallentine Church. St. Nicholas of Tallentine Church was and still is a very large church. It's called the Cathedral of the Bronx, and it was run by the Augustinians. There were 17 priests in the parish. And the reason why there were so many priests was that besides it being a large parish, there was a high school in which the Augustinian priests taught. The priests taught in the boys' half of the high school, and the Dominican sisters from Blauvelt taught in the girls' half. So our apartment building was just around the corner from this beautiful, wonderful St. Nicholas of Tallentine parish. That church and school complex was the center of my life. Everything revolved around it. I witnessed firsthand the community that ministered to us on a daily basis. These men of God affected my life in the most profound way. This Augustinian community that lived around the corner from me was amazing. They were the good guys, riding into the scene to save the day. They didn't wear white hats, but you get the picture. I got to witness firsthand how the community worked, how they prayed together, ate together, and demonstrated exactly how I thought a Christian community should be. One of the greatest blessings of my life was to have been planted right next door to this place. These guys were my heroes. In the Bronx, similar probably to many of you, if somebody asked you where you were from, you said the name of your parish. That's how you were known. And I was always very proud to say I was from Tallentine. And that was it. That was all I needed to see this community at work, to see these men living in community and serving the people of every age. And I knew that was what I wanted to be part of. When I joined the seminary, I didn't know anybody else that was there. Even though I came from a large parish, I was the only one from my parish joining. In later years, there were a handful of others from Tallentine that joined. But most of the guys I met back then were similar to me in the fact that they experienced firsthand in their communities an Augustinian community, About 75% of them came from two different high schools, two different Augustinian high schools. Monsignor Bonner High School in Philly, where there were 3,000 boys, and Archbishop Carroll High School in Washington, D.C., with 800 boys. Now, back in the 60s, the Augustinians had two provinces in the United States. I was part of the St. Thomas of Villanova province near Philadelphia. The other province was the Midwest province near Chicago, called our Mother of Good Counsel province, which is where the Pope is from. Our province at Villanova consisted of parishes and high schools, mainly in the Northeast. Two colleges, Villanova University and Merrimack College. High schools in Massachusetts, New York, Philly, and Washington, D.C. The Augustinians also had many parishes in all of those states. Now, at the time, our province also included the West Coast, mainly California, where there were several high schools and many parishes. So in the seminary at Villanova, we had a handful of guys from California. Years later, California became its own province, called the province of Saint Augustine, bringing the number of provinces in the U.S. to 3. Now, when I was in the seminary, in our province alone, there were around 50 postulants, 40 novices, 100 guys in philosophy or college, and then there were another 60 in theology in Washington. All totaled, that's about 250 men in our province alone. Right now, in the whole country, that number is about 30. In the first week after Pope Leo was elected, 105 young men called the vocation office inquiring about joining. So, we shall see. I didn't know Robert Prevost, Pope Leo. He was after my time. But when he was elected, similar to what Deacon Kirk explained in his homily a few weeks ago, that my phone blew up. And then for the next 3 days or 4 days, on TV, I would see dear friends of mine wearing the same habit that I wore for 6 years, being interviewed and talking about their dear friend, the Pope. It was surreal. Augustinians, similar to other religious orders, live in community. Community is the main idea of being an Augustinian. The community, that brotherhood, was always there for you. 2 years after I left the seminary, my father died, and carloads of guys came up to the Bronx from Villanova for his wake. And the next day at his funeral, there were 17 Augustinian priests on the altar. And 7 years after I left, my work had me moving to Los Angeles, where I didn't know a single soul. I knew there was an Augustinian parish in LA, so I called the rectory and spoke with the pastor, telling him I was a former Augustinian, and I was headed to LA and was wondering if he could give me some info on LA and what areas I might want to look at to live in. And he said, stay with us. I arrived in LA, went to our Mother of Good Counsel parish, where the pastor gave me a key to the rectory and told me what time dinner was. I stayed for 2 weeks. Then and now, after all these years, I still feel like I'm a part of that brotherhood. Augustinians follow the rule of Saint Augustine. Now, our next video will be talking about Saint Augustine, who he was, and what it was that he started. I hope you come back. Thanks for watching.